the legacy that Coach Sutton leaves behind in your mind, what is that?
Well, for me, it's a little bit different just because obviously my dad coached with Coach Sutton, gosh, in the 1960s at Creighton. So I really have a really good understanding of how amazing it was, all the building that he did, from Tulsa Central to CSI to Creighton to Arkansas to, Kentucky and all the way, forward to Oklahoma State. Heck, his name's on the court. He's in two Hall of Fames now, the College Basketball Hall of Fame and the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame. He was the first coach to take 4 programs to the NCAA tournament, and all the Final Fours and whatever. But all of that stuff, honestly, pales in comparison to what Joe and B and I know, which is that, he really helped nurture our growth as men, and he helped foster our growth as teammates and friends. And I really think that what our coaches and what Coach did a great job of is, hey, not only who can play for me, but who can play and survive and be in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and be about the right things. And because so many of our personalities are similar, we all talk a little trash, we all have a little talk of the walk confidence, we're just alike, and we're all really good friends because of it. So instead of talking for me about the defense and the building, it's about the relationships that we all have gotten because of how he constructed a team and how he made us become closer.
And Brian, what did Coach Sutton mean to you personally?
The biggest thing for me was, obviously we want to win games and things like that, but it wasn't about the wins and losses. It was, it was the fact of when you have children and, Coach would write a letter, like when my daughter Maya was born 15 years ago and I was in Italy, he wrote her a long letter and sent her a pair of Air Jordans. It was the things when we come back, after being gone for so long over in Europe, and you'd come back, the first thing you wanted to do when you got back to the States was go see Coach and visit with him. And before he asked how you were doing, he asked how your family was doing, how your kids are doing. Have you called your mom? Have you talked to your mom? What's your plans for the next year? What are you going to do when basketball stops? Those are the things that were very impactful for me, and just, being 43 years old now with 3 kids and my own family and just reminiscing, about all the times that we've had with Coach. It was, he genuinely cared about us as, just not as players, but as people. And, it was, he was brutally honest at times with us, when we were playing, but, he told us the things that I felt like we needed to hear, being in that 18 to 22-year-old range.
And Joe, how did Coach Sutton impact your life?
Well, I think those guys, for me, I think it was a little different as well because, Brian, those guys talking about their children. Well, when I came to Oklahoma State, I already had a child. So I didn't get any pair of Air Jordans, or my daughter didn't get Air Jordans. I can tell you that. So that kind of shows. I was kind of always the whipping boy for Coach Sutton at times. But for me, it was just he actually, I was a father, but he taught me how to actually be a father and be a man, and he taught us accountability. And as Doug said, it was more about the relationships and the family atmosphere because. It wasn't it wasn't peaches and cream playing for Coach. He was extremely tough, but what he did was he was able to put a team together, and as Doug said, kind of find guys under the radar, but right there that really have a chip on their shoulder and really push those guys to maximize their potential. And it wasn't easy, and he did it the hard way. He taught us how to grind. And he taught us how to be successful away from basketball once we were done playing for him. So that was the most important thing I think he does. So he's instilled in us all. And so his legacy will carry on forever within us and through us.
And just throw this out to all you guys. Do you think you would be where you are in your life now if it wasn't for the impact that Coach Sutton had on it?
No.
I can answer that. From my standpoint, Coach taught you life lessons. He taught you life skills. He taught you how to treat people, how to talk to people. more importantly, he taught you how to be accountable. Like I look at my role now as being the head basketball coach at OSU, and then also having a career in medical device sales. And for me to be able to do that is you've got to be accountable, and you've got to really manage your time, and be structured. And that gets back to back to playing for Coach, and the way we practice, how hard it was, how demanding he was. You had to be on time, you had to show up, and there was no excuses. If you failed at something, then you were held responsible, and then you had to be accountable for your actions. So for me, I mean, he's in our program, we pride ourselves on being disciplined, and, we try to, teach our kids in our program to do the things the right way. It's not just about basketball, but it's about life.
I mean, obviously I'd echo both your sentiments, but it's interesting. I don't know where, I think I would be in some form around basketball, around sports. I mean, that's just who I am and what I was. But I think kind of the life-changing experience that I got because of Coach, for example, Joe and I. So when I got there, Joe was a point guard his whole life. And, we were a little bit, two dogs, one bone in the preseason and getting in practice. And, I genuinely like and respect Joe, but, hey, I want to play. I don't really care if he plays because I want to play. And I'm sure he felt the same way. And his ability to make the hard decisions and have the hard conversations of, hey, guess what? We're going to play both of you together. And this is how it's going to work. And, that we had another, combo guard, Estelle Laster, who was a great high school player, super talented. But, Coach just felt like these two guys play together well. And we had Chad Alexander, who had been there and put in his time for 3 years. And he had the hard conversation of, hey, Chad, these guys, we think they have a higher ceiling than you. But Chad came off the bench, and I'm sure he didn't like it. Like, nobody likes their senior year not getting to be a star. But you know what? He bought in. He was a great teammate, and he's a dear friend. And the point is that, like, in addition to teaching us life lessons off the court and making sure, hey, if you go to church or whatever religious ceremony, he'd always, on a Saturday night, he'd always say, get up and go to church. And he'd be honest about how we treat and talk to women and talk to people around, and just the life lessons he taught you as a basketball player, which is like, hey, I'm going to ask you to do something, and you may not like it at the time, but it's better for all of us. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I'll find somebody that will. And if you do, trust me, like, we'll all be the better because of it. And I mean, I look back now and I'm like, that was really amazing. I remember on my recruiting visit seeing, like, yeah, I don't know, if I could play with Joe Atkins, that would be really cool. And Adrian Peterson and Desmond Mason. We all get on the court at the same time. But that wasn't how he coached normally. He always had two big guys. I mean, but he changed. He evolved. He changed what he did and how he did it because that was the times. But I think it's Brian mentioned accountability, whether it's accountability, which I think is part of it, but also just having hard, honest conversations. It's about sale. It's about, because he didn't become a different guy. You need to do if you wanted to play, if you wanted to stay on the court. Otherwise, they find somebody that did. So to ask, would I be the same guy? Probably not, because one of the things you have to figure out in real life of work is that the job that you want, everybody wants. You got to figure out the job that's going to get you on the court, or going to in my neck of the woods, like, going to get you on air. And that's what you learn from playing for Oklahoma State and Eddie Sutton, and that's what you learn in life.
Joe, would you be in the same spot in your life if it wasn't for those lessons that Coach taught you?
Well, I can't say. Probably so, but I think what he taught you is, I think in all our jobs we're happy with what we do, but we've gone through some adversity to get to where we are, and it's the fight and the grind and having to go about life, that it's not going to be peaches and cream. It's going to be the hard way, and expect it to be the hard way, and it's going to be earned. So nothing's given to you, as Brian said, accountability, those things. It's just the attention to detail is really what you really learn and how to greet people, looking them in the eyes. Very small things that really that just teach you how to be a man. And as he said, if you can get through me and you can play for me, and if you make it, you'll be successful. And that's the one thing that he told me when I and recruited me. And that's the one thing that I can honestly say that was the truth.
And Brian, just real quick, tell me that story. We were talking about a little bit on the phone of Saturday night for you.
It was kind of a surreal moment. I mean, we've got an idea of him not, feeling well, and he was pretty much in his last hours. And I was hanging with some friends out on the lake, and there was a sunset. We were all watching the sunset, and it was orange, man. It was glowing orange that night, and it was just kind of one of those deals where it was like, it was just a weird, surreal feeling where you knew something was happening or something was going on, and to be able to see the sunset and just visit with some O State people and talk and listen to music. It was a pretty surreal feeling.
What's interesting is, I mean, like, to me, Brian embodies like one of the greatest parts of our program. Like, he didn't play, was it 13 games you didn't play our sophomore year?
Something like that, yeah. 10.
I think it was like
13. Yeah, 10, 13, 10, 12.
I mean, it was like he was getting no burn. And yet he came in, he was like a hero against OU. They carry him off the court like he did something. But you know what? Guy got a little taste of it, and he got greedy, and he was like, I want to play the whole time. And he became irreplaceable. Like, irreplaceable. And, I mean, like, and then had to, like, what, 8 – did you play 8 years overseas?
10.
10 years with a fake passport overseas. I mean, it was a pretty amazing story. But no, really, I mean, like, and we just all kind of grew into this really cool group that we had this special things. Joe was a star in the state, and then, hell, he became an All-American, right? Like, to go from where you guys all started to being Joe has, got All-American votes, like, that's crazy. So I just think they both did such a good job of getting better. They got better every day, and they really worked and lived in the gym. And I have no doubt that it's because of how Coach, he was just very upfront about it. Like, hey, if you don't want to get it done, I'll find somebody that will. And that was it. That was all we needed. We had competitive dudes who wanted to get better.
You guys had just finished up your careers before the plane crash happened in 2001, but obviously you were still close to the program, knew a lot of those people. Where does how Coach Sutton handled that tragedy fit into his legacy?
Well, I think for me, in watching Coach, that kind of changed the program in its entirety and how it went about, how close we were. It changed the demeanor of the program, the faces of the program, in which were Coach. When we were in school and prior to that 2001, I mean, Coach truly was a bulldog. That's what you saw. And after the plane crash, it became more than basketball. You always knew it was bigger than basketball, but Coach actually embraced the love and just he was just completely different with his players and how he coached, and he changed everything, and he wanted to do all these special things for us, and he helped us out. He brought us back all the time. It was just different for me. And so when that happened, it actually took the program to another level because I think it brought guys closer. Guys were going out their way to recruit. Everybody just wanted to be around more, and Coach embraced that. And he wasn't really like that at first. I think it just made everybody closer, and it just made everyone really value our relationships more.
Brian,
Yeah, I can echo on that a little bit too. One thing Coach would do all the time is, after the plane crash, is when he had a conversation with you, whether it be on the phone or in person, is he made sure to tell you that he loved you. And it was genuine, and like Joe said, I think it brought us all closer together. Going through that tragic experience. But for one thing with Coach is you did see a softer side of him. You saw a more vulnerable side of Coach that maybe we didn't see when we were playing. But I know without a doubt, it not only brought our university closer together, but it brought our basketball basketball program extremely close together.
We can't begin to really understand what the plane crash, how it affected him. But I mean, like, look, it still affects me, and I'm sure it affects the guys as well, because heck, I was on that plane 2 years before when we lost to Colorado in overtime. And, I actually went to therapy for one of my children 8 years ago. And we talked about like the most traumatic life experiences. And that was one for me. And I actually went through therapy for it. So I can't begin to know how it affected him. I would say though, Brian's right. Like I never, for the rest of his life, whenever I spoke to coach or texted coach, I always told him I loved him, and he always told me he loved me too. And I think we've done a better job, as Joe said, of being friends, being there for one another. And look, we've all played and traveled. I've moved all, across God's green earth, whatever. But we're still very, very close, and want to know what's going on in each other's lives. And anytime we're in town with each other, we catch up. And I think the plane crash did soften coach. It softened coach, but it also, I'm sure, was really, really hard in his soul, because, the decisions that you make, even if, like, look, here's how it used to work. We'd have 3 planes, and coach would be on the jet, and I usually wasn't on coach's plane because he said I talked too much. And then if one plane was faster than his plane, well, damn it, he's going to be on that plane on the way home, right? So the whole thing would be adjusted. And like the plane thing was kind of fun. You got your little, I'm in my plane away from coach. But if you think of it from his perspective, like he was the one who filled out that plane list. He was the one who said who was on that plane. And so by his estimation, he was the one who decided who lived and who died. Like that's who you have to live with. That's, heck, that's terrible. That's got to be weighing on your soul. So I do think it softened him. I do think it changed him. And I do think it changed all of us for the better, and that we had a better, not just respect for the program, but also for the times we spent each other and how life can be fleeting. Because, when you play basketball in college, most of us are alphas. We all think we're impervious to stuff. We're going to live forever. You never think of your own mortality. And then it was right there in front of us. So I do think that changed things.
Let me get out of the way from you guys a little bit and just talk about your favorite stories with coach.
My favorite Coach Sutton story, this is the easy one, is Coach Sutton used to have what's called a do better talk. Okay? And he would tell you, sometimes in front of the team or walk by your locker, like, you need to come upstairs and have a do better talk. And you're like, oh, man. And they would research you, right? They would call all your teachers, your advisor, your tutors if you had them. They know who your girlfriend was, what was happening in your home, your parents. They would come and search your dorm room or your apartment, see if you're drinking or if there's anything in there, like everything. And you come into his office, and his office was like dimly lit. And coach is up there at the desk, and he has a long couch. And you had, the assistant coaches, and they would just each lay into you about all the stuff you're not doing, right? Like, and they all had such different, unique voices. You had Randall Dickey who's like, oh, you ain't doing nothing in class. You ain't ever going to class. And then, Sean would be over there muddling, and you had, and then, we had Paul Graham Judge. Yeah, you ain't doing nothing. You ain't doing nothing, And so finally we'd come back to coach. And coach like, now listen, you're a heck of a kid. You come from a good family. We just need to clean some of this stuff up. The do better talk is the one experience I think we've all had. And you walk out thinking, coach likes me, but man, I must be a terrible human being that he's even sticking by me, right? So it was a unique way of motivating you. Like, God, they talked to my 3rd grade PE teacher. I didn't run the mile, something like that. They researched everything on you. And then somehow he like avoided any sort of negativity because he wasn't the one doing the research. I was like, that's the assistant coaches. I'm the good guy. He used to do that with conditioning too. He'd walk out of the gym and turn to the coaches and say, run them to their ankle smoke. And then he'd walk out. So he wasn't the bad guy, but everybody else was.
Whenever you think back at coach, whether it's a moment that meant a lot to you or made you smile or just a moment, what's going to be the one you look back at your relationship and coach that stands out in your mind?
Mine would be the way he was with my kids. You know, when they were at a young age. You know, I can remember the day he retired from OSU, and Maya, I think, was 2 or 3, and she was in his office crawling all over the place and on his desk and everything else. Those are the things that I remember. You know, I remember, you know, him with Jalen, you know, my middle son, sitting next to Coach, watching the game, and Coach sharing his popcorn with him. And Coach was one of those guys that always had candy in his pockets. And when you've got a 3 or 4-year-old, the last thing you want him to do is, you know, eating a bunch of sugar. And as soon as Coach started pulling the candy out, I mean, it was endless. It was in every pocket. Those are the things that I remember, you know, and him and Mrs. Sutton also, you know, she would send Facebook messages and birthday calls and birthday cards and just asking how your family was doing and making sure that you were okay.
Joe, how about you?
I mean, one thing is just how, as Brian said, it's just how he was. I'll never forget, though, just after finishing playing, the smile when you came back to see him. I mean, he would have, because I didn't get a lot of smiles when I was an actual player.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
We did. None of us did.
So when
Desmond and Andre Williams.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you see the true affection and the love that he had for you, and just how proud he was of you, you know, no matter what we were going through, he would always, you know, he had this way of, if something was going wrong or something happened, you might never hear from Coach, and then all of a sudden you'll get a phone call, and he just called to check on you. And it was just small things like that let me know that how much he actually cared for me. But just the smile of when you came back after you were playing, just the respect and the love he had for you, and just how much affection he had for you, and how he wanted the best for you.
I'll give you one. Joe said it right. Like, we weren't the group that got the love. We weren't Desmond generally got all the pats on the back, whatever. Maybe sometimes Adrian Peterson, whatever. And then Andre Williams, we called him Andre Sutton because they had to be related. He got, you know.
Andre could do no wrong.
Could do no wrong. Our senior year, we beat Kansas by 33 at our place. And then we beat them by 19 in the Big 12 tournament. And I'll never forget, we beat them in the Big 12 tournament. And, you know, there's just nights when, like, I played really well that night. Like, the 33-point night, we could have beat by 50. Everybody played great. Mace was incredible. And they just kind of folded up. And Kansas City, they bowed up. They played decently. We just kicked the crap out of them. But I remember, you know, there's that time when you get down in the locker room, he says something, hey, we got to go to the media. And me, and I don't remember if it was Mace, whatever, go to the media. And he stopped before we got in the golf cart. And he was just like, you played a hell of a game today. You played a hell. And that was it. And then, you know, I was like, thanks, Coach. And then I remember, like, the whole way, I was like, that's the first compliment he's ever given me. That's it. It
was the end of your career, Doug.
It was the end of my career.
We only had a couple more games left, bud.
I know. I didn't play so good against Iowa State the next day. That's why he didn't give me a comment. But I remember that, like, and I see, like, that's how we are with each other. Like, we don't give each other false praise, you know. And I've done that as an analyst. And people are like, well, you're negative. Like, no, I'm not going to give you fake praise. Like, my coach didn't do that to me, right? Like, it feels so much better. It feels incredible when somebody who doesn't say attaboy all the time gives you an attaboy, because he was just honest, you know, maybe to a fault. You guys ain't any good. You're not any good. Vegas doesn't think you're any good. I don't think you're any good. Nobody's any good. Arkansas, we had the triplets. They were good. You ain't any good, you know. So we weren't any good, but we had a lot of fun playing for them.
It's great that the vote came down before Coach passed away.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, listen, obviously I tried to involve myself as much just because, like, it's not about us, our group, it's about all of our groups. Like, we know we played for a great coach. We had a great program, and it's not the only program that he's built. It was just so laughable, and it was sad. But, I mean, like, listen, when Patsy went in 2013, Brian, Joe, and I, a couple times, we'd go by and see him, and there'd be times in which you're like, I don't think he wants to do this anymore. You know, I don't think. But he kept it, whether it was us going and showing up, or his family, or his grandsons. You know, Hunter taking care of him. Whatever it was, it kept him going. And I think he was just living until he got that announcement. He got that announcement. He finally got the respect he deserved, and now he gets to go and enjoy it with Patsy. So, you know, look, we're all really sad that we're not going to get what Joe said. Joe's right, man. That smile when you come back in town, you haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing like it. You're like, oh my God, he actually likes me. That's cool. We're not going to have that, and it's going to be very, very different. Very different. But I do think that it was time. You know, the fight was won, and now it's time to go enjoy the rest of eternity with Patsy. So I would love to sit here and tell you I'm sad just because I'm sad for his kids, his grandkids, and I honestly I'm most sad that he won't be able to, even when they gave him the Hall of Fame. He was such a powerful orator. Like, he took over a room. He was funny. He was affable. He had great stories. He had just a great voice and diction and way of put like you know, he had all these clever sayings. At one time in the middle of practice, like, you guys are congregating like you're shooting craps. And all of a sudden, Joe's eyes get big because Joe is a very good dice player. Won't anybody play dice with Joe? Okay? But he said that, and Joe stopped and, like, dead in the middle of the scrimmage, like, just rolling on the floor laughing. But he just, coach was like, what'd I say? And he didn't even think about it. So I'm really actually sad that he isn't going to get, like, you won't hear from his own words, his belief, the 3Ds. It was a passion that he had when he was a player, became a high school coach. And, you know, so oftentimes when we're in our 20s, we have a vision of what our life's going to look like. He set forth the vision what his life's going to look like, and he achieved it. You know, with the exception of defending one ball screen against Georgia Tech, they would have been a national championship game. You know, if I could make any shots at all, we beat Florida. We were terrible. Brian gets sick before we played Florida, right? I mean, we all feel like we let him down because he was good enough. We just weren't to win a national championship. But he finally got what he deserved. So sadly, it's time, and now he's off to a better place.
Any stories or anything you wanted to talk about that I didn't cover?
Well, I just know I'm just going to continue to live the Cowboy way, Eddie Sutton way, gritty, gut grinding it out. And Brian, you just keep enjoying that lake house you got back there. Doug, you keep riding in that Tesla, and I just do it the Cowboy way, that good old fashioned hard work, fellas.
Hey, listen, Nathan, Joe Atkins is never going to starve.
No. No.
My wife and I were like, listen, doesn't matter what Joe doing now. Doesn't matter. Joe's doing fine. Okay? Joe is doing fine. Basketball court, business meeting, casino, nightclub, dinner. Joe's doing fine. He might stick you for a check, but he's doing fine. Don't let the basement shot fool you.
No.
I'm sure that house is probably all paid for, whereas mine is not.
All right, guys. Well, if that's all you got, I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
All right,
Love you guys.
All right. Later, man.
All right, fellas.
Later, man.